Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Recently, actor Anthony Mackie talked about the death of the American male and masculinity in America.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night. This alarm is on. You text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there.
Now, actor Anthony Mackie did an interview on The Pivot where he talked about manhood and the death of masculinity in America. And as he was talking about manhood, he talked about how masculinity in this country basically has been dead for the last 20 years. And this is a talking point I can agree with Anthony Mackie on, because I basically saw masculinity die in front of me as I was growing up in the 1980s. Now, when it comes down to masculinity in this country, masculinity isn't valued by the wealthy and the elite. And they don't value masculinity because they don't want men to go out here and be the leaders that God established them to be. And they don't want men to be the leaders that God established them to be because they fear that men will go out here and push back against their whole ideals and their goals. Moreover, they fear that these men will go out here and form unions and other business entities that will challenge them and compete against them. And because these wealthy elite want to be able to maintain power, what they wanted to do was go out and reshape society starting in the 1950s. And this is what started the beginning of the demise of masculinity in America and the West. Now, the wealthy didn't want to see men go out here and have any sort of power that God has established for them as their role as a man, being a head and a steward that God has made directly accountable to him. So what they did was wage a campaign to try to end masculinity in America and the West. And this campaign was designed so that they could go out here and again maintain their wealth and their economic base in this country. That's what they wanted to do by looking to destroy masculinity. And what they wanted to do to start this was to again go out here and take the man out of his natural role that God has established for him as the head, as related to being a steward and the authority that has a direct connection to God. So that was the first thing that these wealthy individuals wanted to do, was take the man out of his role in God's order and put him in a lesser role in their order that they were creating for themselves. And to do that, what they did was go out here and look to elevate the woman out of her role of helpmeet and make her into a de facto head of their order. They wanted to take the woman and make her a de facto head, or co-head in some places, where she would have equal power in their eyes to be a head and a steward. But that's not the role that God established for the woman, but it was the role that the wealthy wanted the woman to have. And they wanted the woman to have this role because, one, she was a weaker vessel who was naive and they could take advantage of her. And two, they could go out here and get this woman to be the consumer that the man would not be. I go in depth on this in my book, The Woman Crisis. And when it comes down to these wealthy individuals, they wanted to have the woman in this role, again, because they could maintain their power base, because women were naturally more submissive and would not push back against their institutions, and they would basically go along to get along. So this is where they wanted to give her that power, because they wanted to, again, take the power away from the man in their society. And as they looked to take the power away from the man, they wanted to take it because they knew that they could get this woman to be more under their control. And they could also, in some cases, get her to be a second paycheck, get her to be a second paycheck that they could go out here and get tax revenue from while she worked. And as she was working, they could basically get control over the children through social engineering of their agenda, through their Madison Avenue advertising and these Hollywood media programs. They could program these children all while the father wasn't there, because when the father was in the home, he was the one, as the leader, establishing standards that met his standard. So these children could not be heavily influenced because, one, they looked up to the man who was, again, God's steward. Two, they were held to a standard that God established for the family. And three, they were all under God's protection. So the boys basically learned their roles as men, and the girls learned to respect male authority. But the wealthy did not want to see people looking at that man as the head of that family. No, what they wanted to do was get people to be out here participating in idolatry and consumerism, participating in idolatry, then that they were worshiping all of the things that were presented to them in the media, on television and film and advertising, and participating in consumerism, looking to go out here and consume these items. This is why they wanted to kill manhood and masculinity in this country and replace it with a substitute as related to manhood, and have that substitute man basically out here representing what they wanted to create was their new age masculinity, and represent their new age masculinity where these males would be raised by females. And this is why the wealthy went out here and reestablished the old feminist movement, which basically wound up failing back in the days when it was called suffragists. Now, the suffragists was just a bunch of racist white women who were upset that black men got the right to vote. And because they felt that black men had more power in this country, they were angry at black men, and they formed the suffragist movement, saying they were fighting for women's rights when they were actually just fighting to keep black men at the bottom of the world. And the suffragists really didn't get much momentum because the suffragists wound up not looking to support women's actual rights, because many of the working class women who were leaving the farms and moving to the big cities, living in the rooming houses, working in the factories for 10 cents an hour, they were not getting much support from the feminists or the suffragists at the time, who were living well in their mansions. No, these women who were working in just, again, horrific work conditions and having to deal with men going out here and leering at them, men assaulting them, men even raping them on the job. They got no support from these suffragists and were basically ignored. and black women were basically not even seen as women. So the suffragist movement lost all of its momentum, and as more women entered the workforce in World War II, this is where more women started to form their own women's rights movement outside of the suffragists, and went out here and lobbied the government and eventually got their issues addressed with laws like the Equal Pay Act of the 1960s and Title VII or Title IX policies as related to stopping sexual harassment. These were policies that were put in place by the actual working women's rights movement that came out of World War II. And when they saw all those working women, again, this is where the wealthy wanted to, again, break up the family because they wanted to profit from the family. And this is where they started to, again, wage their campaign to, again, destroy manhood and masculinity in this country and replace it with their substitute male, a substitute male who they believed would be more docile and more submissive. And this male was someone that they wanted to socially engineer as they reestablished the feminist movement in the 1960s, reestablished the feminist movement, and use that as a way to create and socially engineer a kinder, gentler, more softer male. This is what was pushed when I was growing up in the 80s, the new age sensitive guy. But this new age sensitive guy was one who was not going to be one that would go out here and challenge the institutions of power of the wealthy. Moreover, he would not be a male who would look to go out here and compete against the wealthy. That's what they wanted to do with this male, was create a docile, submissive man who looked to follow the lead of the woman rather than take the lead in his own life as a man. And this is where masculinity began its demise back in the 1980s with the social engineering of the kinder, gentler, softer, more sensitive guy. But this kinder, gentler, more sensitive guy basically was not built and equipped for the world that God created. No, he was not built or equipped for that world. And this man basically has been falling completely apart over the last 40 to 60 years. And as Anthony Mackie stated, again, we saw the death of masculinity around the 2000s. And again, the death of masculinity, again, started all the way back in the 50s because they don't want us to have men. But in order for a society to function, you do need men. And that's where Anthony Mackie is on point about the way he's raising his sons. Because the only way you can raise a boy to be a man is if a father is actively involved in his life, because there are little things that a father can teach a son. There are little things that a father can teach a daughter, and these little things are not things they're gonna get from the media, which is designed to, again, program you with ideas as related to their whole false perception of reality. No, the real world is a completely different place. And in the real world, the world is a hard and rough place. And the only person who can teach you about how hard and rough that world is a man who has been out there. Only a man who has been out there can teach a boy about life in that world. Moreover, a man who has been out there in this world has the life experience to understand how life works. And this is how a father can go out here and teach a boy the male life skills and male survival skills he's going to need in order to navigate life in that world and be the leader and example that all those boys see as a model that they can go out here and follow. Because, again, the father is the first man in a boy's life, and if they don't see that example of manhood, they don't know how to function. And when a father is there, again, he shows a boy how to, again, take care of himself as a man in many little nuanced ways by, again, his model of his work ethic, his model of his discipline, his model of his resolve, his model of his routine. All of these things are things that a boy watches his father do every day and is showing him an example of manhood and the way he carries and conducts himself in situations in front of his son, show him how to socialize. Again, these are basic skills that a father prepares for his son and teaches his son in the real world. And this is what Anthony Mackie has been teaching his sons as related to masculinity. Now, some of these feminists will sit there and say it's toxic masculinity. No, that's not toxic masculinity at all. That's natural masculinity, and that's what you get from your father. Moreover, you get masculine energy from your father, who builds up your self-confidence and your self-worth by being at your side, showing you how men behave. And the real, actual toxic males are the socially engineered, kinder, gentler, softer, as I call them, beta males. And many in clinical studies have called them beta males, these submissive, soft males who basically, again, they're male on the outside, but they're feminine on the inside. These are the toxic males who do not know how to function in life. And as these males go around, again, they malfunction, especially once they start hitting adolescence. Once they start hitting adolescence, these guys basically start short-circuiting, start malfunctioning, and start falling apart. And that's what we're seeing here in society. We're seeing all of these men short-circuiting, malfunctioning, and falling apart as they buy into rhetoric like Anthony Mackie talked about in this interview, talking about, oh, you can go out here and do hard work and get success.
I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all this shit. And what I realized yesterday thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog. And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that and this is fresh on my heart, like I literally just came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all. There were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster. But somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off.
And again, I know from experience that's complete bullshit. I mean, that's been sold to so many kids over the years. Oh, you go out here and you work hard in school. You work hard and you'll get stuff. No, when it comes to success, like I stated before in a previous video, success is not something that is defined, again, by the standard as related to black people. Now, Anthony Mackie has come out and said, yeah, success is given, and yes, you do give your kids the tools for success. Again, a father can give you those tools by giving you those male life skills and male survival skills. Moreover, he can give you those connections to other men who can help you be able to start out in life. That's what many of the wealthy got. Many of these wealthy guys like Elon Musk and Donald Trump got their hands from their fathers who gave them things. And again, this is where Anthony Mackie is on point in being honest. Again, from my experience, I tried to go out here back in my 20s on this so-called merit propaganda that they pushed out here, and all I ran into were walls from people going out here moving the goalpost, talking about you need experience, you need to have this, but the whole thing is this person, they worked hard, but they're getting nothing because you don't want to give anybody anything on merit. No, it's all about hookups, it's all about connections, it's all about who you know, and it's just better to be honest about this and let people know, okay, since I can't get nothing here, I'll either go out here and get hooked up from my family, or I'll go out here and try to, again, start working at one of these low-level positions, if I can get it from the family hooking me up, and then start working on building my own. That's what people used to do back in the day, because they understood, okay, if this guy ain't gonna do nothing for me, I'll go do it myself. But what the wealthy don't want you to do is go out here and do it for yourself, because they don't want to compete against you. They don't want anybody pushing back. They don't want to see men being men. But in order for a society to be able to grow, you do need men being men. You do need men going out here and being masculine. And that's why America has been on a major state of decline for the last 60 years, because we killed masculinity. And so a handful of wealthy guys can go out here and hold on to their money, and they're not even going to hold on to their money, because based on what I've seen in history from eras like the Gilded Age, many of those wealthy types went out here and squandered their fortunes because they thought they were going to go on forever, building elaborate, expensive mansions, and then eventually their names basically wound up forgotten, like it was stated in the Psalms and the Proverbs. These men, they want to think they can go on forever, maintaining their wealth base, but eventually what happens is they wind up broke, and since there's nobody there to take their place and replace them, what happens is that nation goes into a state of decline because you did not foster competition, because what makes a country, again, strong is male competition. Men compete against other men. Men build as they compete. This is a natural skill, and Anthony Mackie, again, preparing his sons for the real world of actual men and teaching them actual male life skills. This is something I can commend him on. He went out here and taught his boys actual masculinity, because in this world, men go out here, we do compete, we push back against each other, and again, this is good, healthy behavior, because, again, when you teach your boys about how to be leaders, because he said he started with his eldest son, teaching him how to lead, and the other boys learned from him. So he's learning about male authority. He's learning about chain of command. These are skills that a boy is going to need to go out in the world. He's got to learn how to follow behind another man in order to lead himself. He's got to learn how to respect other men and other men in authority positions. Again, these are male life skills that boys, again, learn from a father, and again, essential male life skills. So he's got his sons on point out here, and he is right. Yeah, masculinity in this country has been dead for a good 20 years. I would go even further, because I remember when they were playing all these simps shows and simp music, again, programming ideas in guys' minds that they needed to pander and cater to females, instead of showing what I used to see in old 60s and 70s shows. I mean, I remember sitting there watching Adam 12 and other shows like Dragnet, and they were teaching, again, masculine skills where you saw an older man passing his skills to the younger man. You saw men learning about authority, men learning about structure, men learning about how to build and maintain a civilization, men learning how to critically think and problem solve. That's what you saw in a lot of older TV shows. And after the feminist movement came along, we started to see a different kind of programming where, again, they were looking to socially engineer the kinder, gentler, softer male. But the kinder, gentler, softer male, he cannot function in society. And the kinder, gentler, softer male, from what I've seen, this is why we have so much crime going on. This is why we have drug addiction, because these men don't know how to cope with life. They don't know how to deal with rejection. And instead of being able to navigate life, what these men do is just go out here and self-destruct, whether it be by going out here and participating in addictions like drugs and alcohol, or some of them go out here and get so frustrated they want to destroy the world around them, like many of the mass shooters. And some look to take their own lives because they don't know how to function as men, and they don't know how to function as men because we don't invest in our men. And that's one of the things I'm happy that Anthony Mackie did, was invest in his sons, because if you train up a child in the way they should go, they won't depart it. And when you, again, invest in your sons, it's going to pay off. It will pay off in that you're going to have a functioning man who knows how to navigate a course in life. And in this country, we haven't invested in our men because we want to go out here and profit from, again, miseducating the women. We want to profit from miseducating the women, so we don't invest in our men. And investing in our men is something we need to do if we want to have a functioning society. And I'm glad Anthony Mackie is investing in his sons, investing in their intangibles as related to the values he was teaching them, investing in teaching them about how the world works, teaching them about the structures of the world, teaching them about life in this world, in that it's not fair. Again, success is made by a completely different standard, in that, yes, people do give you things to be successful. And again, your success is not defined by how much money you have, but again, in what you get as related to values. And again, black success is not the same as the success that white supremacy has as related to things, because that's just a smokescreen as related to trying to keep you chasing consumerism, hoping to buy your success when in actuality you're driving yourself deep into debt. And this is what happened to a lot of naive women who got indoctrinated into feminism. They bought into that consumerism, and as they bought into that consumerism, they basically drove themselves into poverty, and are now poor, again, because they did not have a man to give them guidance. And again, your society will die if you don't invest in your men, don't invest in masculinity, and that's what's happening right now to the West and America. We're losing because we don't want to invest in our men, because a group of greedy people thought they could hoard this wealth, but that wealth will again go into the dust if you don't have men to be protectors, men to be providers, men to have a stake in the country, because so many men are tuning out and quitting at this point because they see no incentive to continue being a part of a society that doesn't want to invest in them. That's what's happening here. And again, we see that, again, there is a problem. Again, when you kill masculinity, you basically kill your society. And you kill your society because if there are no men that can get any return on their investment to be made to care about a society, then your society is about to fall. And that's what America doesn't understand. But Anthony Mackie seems to get. Again, in order to get men in your society, you have to invest in your men. This is my solution for the man crisis that's been going on in this country for the last 60 years. Again, a man crisis because the wealthy, again, want to be greedy and, again, want to, again, think they can be the ones on top. But in actuality, that's what leads to your society going into decline, because if there are no men who know their roles as men, do not know their roles as heads and stewards, know how to follow God and be a part of his order, then your nation will basically wind up being trampled on in the dust of the desert and forgotten all throughout history. That's what the wealthy don't understand. They don't understand, and again, they thought they could again keep their civilization and keep their power, but will wind up losing it all because they don't understand that in order to have a great society, you need to invest in your men so that you can wind up profiting generation after generation. And that's what Anthony Mackie is doing, investing in his sons so that they can have a legacy, because the legacy starts again with God and starts with the Father in heaven and his Son, and also is the man teaching this to his sons about their roles as men. And again, we need to again start, if we want to get masculinity back on track, we've got to start investing in our men, because that's the only solution we're going to have to deal with this man crisis going on in this country. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the dysfunctional behavior of beta males and to correct that behavior, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn why so many women wound up on a road to dysfunction because to undermine men, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about celebrities and talking about men's issues, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.